Hello YouTubers, it is of course I, Trollface the Man, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to attempt to repair this charger that last time I tried using it, poofed out a bunch of magic smoke. I'd gotten this charger along with this battery and a battery-powered vacuum at a garage sale for 65 bucks. Which actually is a pretty good deal, and the battery-powered vacuums are actually pretty nice. However, at the time, I thought that this was a legitimate Porter cable battery because it was plugged into this charger, and this seems to be an actual Porter cable charger. Turns out that this was a third-party battery. I don't know if there's anything wrong with it, but it was just one of those things that it would have been a little bit better deal if this was actually not a third-party battery of questionable quality. The charger obviously didn't work right, and the lady that I had bought the stuff from seemed pretty earnest on the fact that she had tested this and it had worked. So when I went back to her and I basically was like, hey, you know, this charger was making a weird buzzing noise and it was smoking, she apologized. I showed her that there was an issue with it, and she offered to give me back half of my money, which would have been like $32.50. I told her that's fine. If she wanted to just give me like 15 bucks back, so that way I could buy a new charger, then I'd be more than happy with just that. And, you know, she seemed very apologetic and stuff. Sometimes things happen. However, interestingly enough, if I plug the battery onto it now, it seems to be magically working again. And I'm assuming this is probably what happened to her. She probably plugged it in, it probably was working, and there was, you know, presumably nothing wrong with it. This bottom corner here, it looks like that there is something that could have possibly been spilled in there, or something that it was possibly set into, or maybe something leaking out from inside. This seems to be operating perfectly fine right now. However, when I originally plugged it in, from the same corner, smoke would trickle out, magic smoke. Very electronic-y smelling smoke. And it would do a weird bzz, sound, which it doesn't seem to be doing anymore. I do believe that there is still a problem with this though, because that stuff happened in the first place. So I want to take it apart and see what's going on. This has, it looks like 4 tamper-resistant star screws. I have my precision screwdriver kit here that actually does have the tamper-resistant star screws in it. This kit is great, by the way. I've been using it for years and years and years very happily, and it was quite cheap. If I can find it still, I will link it below on Amazon, because if you want to pick it up yourself, it's, again, an awesome kit. Let's just start by popping this thing open. What do I think might be? Well, there could be maybe a spider web that shorted something out in there. Maybe something was spilled. You know, well, not necessarily a spider web shorting something out. Maybe a spider web that had gotten hot from electronics and had, you know, maybe caught fire or something and caused problems there. Or, again, maybe there was just some type of spill that might have leaked onto the board. Maybe it can just be cleaned up. The fact that it seems to be working okay now is at least a good sign. But let us take a look. Keep in mind, this is going to very likely have high voltage capacitors in it, and high voltage capacitors can give you quite a jar, or even kill you if you're not careful. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm not accidentally going to touch any capacitor contacts, and I'm very carefully going to remove this. It looks to have little snap-in retention stuff. Yeah, I can see a very juicy cap right there. Just gonna short the contacts on that and make sure that it isn't live still. Oh, turns out I just needed to press the battery contacts from the outside. So let's take a look. Oh, yes. I spy with my little eye a likely problem. Tell me if you can see it too. This capacitor is bulged. It is 100 microfarad, and 200 volt. The other capacitor on the board seems like it's fine. So what's probably happening is that this capacitor, the electrolyte, something happened, it overheated. The electrolyte probably dried out in it, and when it's plugged in now, it probably has a high resistance and it heats up, and that's what created that magical smoke. Those are across the same thing. So that created its magical smoke, and presumably, if I replace this capacitor, I can go ahead and fix this, hopefully. Now the thing that sucks about this is that I don't have the capacitors that I need to replace this. I do have 100 microfarad 200 volt plus capacitors that could work, except for they're significantly bigger, and I would want something around the same size to make sure there's not going to be any type of incompatibilities. So yeah, that kind of sucks, but through the power of movie magic, oh, what's this? It's the exact capacitor that I need. So we're going to be able to do this repair. I had to change up the angle a little bit so that way it's easier for me to work and record. You know, I had covered in another video that I will link about how awesome these little battery inverters are for many different things, including work lights. And I will put that up here, just a little demonstration of it, and you can check out the actual video in the description below. But another awesome thing for this is these things can be, as I had recently found, be used to run low power soldering irons. The soldering iron consumes about 50 watts, and this thing's able to handle 100. So I slap in a big old chunky battery, and I put in my soldering iron, and now I have myself a little portable soldering station. That battery, the 6 amp hour battery here, should be able to theoretically run this without losses for about 2-ish hours. I have my little jank computer fan 9-volt battery thing glued to a Lego set up here to provide a slight draft this way, because solder, for some reason, solder smoke loves, its favorite thing is just flying right at your face. So these are the points that I need to desolder. So this is the bad capacitor. I did check to make sure, because this new one's a little bit longer, that the clearance will be okay, and it will when it's put back in the case. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to flow some fresh solder onto this just to wet it down again. And then I'm going to use some desoldering wick. I'm going to try and desolder these contacts with it. The fresh solder helps the old solder flow. A lot of times the old solder is a lead-free solder, which is more difficult to work with. As you can see, the areas around the stems, the leads for the capacitor, are no longer connected to the board. So theoretically, the only thing that would be holding this capacitor in still will be this glue. So hopefully I'll be able to work this loose and pop it out. Oh, it's loose. Being careful not to break the board. Ah, there we go. I'm gonna go wash my hands because I probably have electrolyte on them from that capacitor, seeing as it was spewed all over. Be right back. Yeah, so the new capacitor is definitely significantly longer than the old capacitor, even though if they are supposed to be the same 100 microfarad 200 volt. But that could be very well just manufacturing quality differences. Usually the tighter something is, smaller the package essentially, the more expensive it is. But like I said, this will fit fine. So this is clearly marked with a plus sign. Also, this is, you know, marked white. I did take note that the negative side was this way before I desoldered it, because just in case the board wasn't marked, but it is marked. So all I should need to do now is feed the new capacitor. Oh, that fits in so nice. Oh, that's just one of those satisfying moments. I'm just gonna do it again just because it was that satisfying. Ready? Ready for this? Oh, look at those. Just line up perfectly and it goes right in the same place. Nice. So, what I should be able to do now is it holds itself, it's kind of tension fit itself right up against the board, which is great for me because it makes things much easier. I'm going to take a little bit of my solder and I'm just going to put on a new blob. Oh, it would help if I had my soldering iron on. Okay, give me a second. Okay, now we're back. So, I have my solder that has been dipped in a little bit of flux. I should be able to just now flow it right onto that lead. Beautiful. And another quick dip. And one thing you do have to be careful with certain boards is that if you overheat them, you can actually basically unbind the pads, the copper pads or whatever pads they use stuck to the board. So they look pretty well connected. I can now just take this and snip those flush. And there we go. Now I could, if I wanted to, maybe stick this down with a little bit of epoxy, but the truth of the matter is that I'm not that concerned about it. The reason why a lot of times they glue stuff like this is that the assumption being maybe you're going to be using this in a vehicle, carrying it around for like a job or whatever, and the vibrations of the vehicle may slowly shake the capacitor loose. However, I'm going to be using this at home. It's not going to be transported around. I could, like again, epoxy or glue it, but for me it's good enough. And now it should be a simple process of doing the reverse. There is a spider web in here. Eek. The fact that this was stored in the garage and it is in such decent shape is honestly kind of impressive. The cord went like this. That's just a little strain thing to make sure that you're not pulling directly on the board. And then we should be golden. We seem to be missing the last screw. Oh well, what's a project without a few missing... Oh, never mind, there it is. I see it. Okay, you guys caught me. The truth of the matter is that I had this extension cord right here the whole time that I could plug the soldering iron into. But, you know, I wanted to show off the awesome ability of the battery inverter to work as a soldering station. No explosions. May listen. No buzzing noise. So I can actually hear now, putting my ear directly up to here, there is a continuous hum as the charger is on, versus before I replaced this bad capacitor, it was going, when I listened really closely, it was going G, 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 like it was turning on, then cutting off, then turning on, then cutting off, versus this is just a continuous hum. So I think that's it. I think that that would be the repair successful. Cool. This is one of my favorite forms of recycling, repairing and making sure it never ends up in a landfill in the first place. And I'm happy that that was a simple repair, because it definitely could be a lot more complicated. So I'm very happy with this. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like. Please leave a comment if you feel inclined to do so, even if it's just to say hi. It helps the channel. Also, subscribe if you haven't already, if you, again, feel so inclined. And thank you to my awesome Patreons that help support the channel and help me make new content. You guys are awesome. The truth of the matter is that most of these videos make pretty much no money. A lot of times they cost me money, so Patreon supporters help provide support to the channel to continue making videos. And I just thank you guys very much for that. And if you want to become a patron and earn some cool rewards like your name on this card here for supporting, then check out the link below. And if you are interested in seeing the inverter light video, I will put that at the end of the video as one of the cards that you can go ahead and click on, and it'll take you right to there. Thank you guys very much for watching, and bye. This is an awesome little meter, by the way, that I'll link below too, the Amazon link. It does like DC current and everything through the circle thingy. I can't remember what it's called right now. My brain's drawing a complete blank. But it also does capacitance. So I decided I would measure the capacitance of this bad capacitor, and it's showing between like 16 to 20-ish microfarad, and it keeps jumping up and down. That's went down as low as 13. When it's supposed to be about 100. So yes, this capacitor was definitely bad. If I measure one of these, a random one out of this bag of the new capacitors, they show, that one shows about 90, which is a little bit on the low side. I think a lot of times they allow a tolerance of about 10% on many capacitors, so technically it would be within the tolerance rating. And some of those in the bag might be better or worse, but it's still a lot better than this, and I'm having a feeling that the resistance in this of inflowing and outflowing power is going to be a lot better than this thing, which has already spewed its electrolytic load all over the place. So yeah,